Good evening. I like cold weather. No, not cool fall weather, accompanied by falling leaves and pumpkin spice. I like cold weather. And no, I'm not mistaking a liking of Christmas for a liking of the weather that surrounds it. I actually do like cold weather. Desolate landscapes most people hide away from, as if they'd die from even remembering they existed outside of their window. A temperature in the mid-20s at the highest. An environment in which refrigerated drinks become colder once removed and left out, and in which snow actually seems to warm things up once it starts to flutter downward. Cold weather. Throughout my life, I've never met a single person to share this taste and climate with me. Not one. I've met a handful of women who claimed to like cold weather, but upon further questioning, it turned out they actually only liked chilly fall weather, and assumed this is what I meant as well. I've also met people, also mostly women, who claimed to like this type of weather when they actually just associated it with Christmas, and merely tolerated it as something that came along with the celebration. But never once in my decades on this planet have I ever met a single person to truly like this type of weather I seem built to feel at home in. When I was a kid, people would simply smile and laugh at me, thinking I was trying to be funny or wanted to say the opposite of what the obvious answer to their question of weather preference was. Once I reached my teens, most people began turning their heads away instead, sometimes in disgust or frustration. This was a very early lesson for me, that the definition of insanity is anything that deviates too far from an expected norm, particularly if it lacks cohesion and stability, and that one's actual mental state in little to no way dictates what qualifies. Human relation is a very primal thing that emanates from our core. It is a largely unchanging thing, or at least the outer parameters are, and it determines much for us, even if it's regarding something trivial and mostly meaningless. In some way, the more trivial something is, the more important it is to us. I've had more people despise me for having subtle disagreements with them than having genuine and large differences between us. As a story I once heard went, even two groups of identical angels in heaven will go to bloody war with each other over the fact that one group has a single speck of dust on their clothing, while the other lacks dust entirely. In a moment, regardless of any other factors, it is indeed these basic and intrinsic details each of us possess that will determine unconscious and sudden decisions and actions, and especially when things truly become dire. Even in reasonably idealistic times and environments, we would all prefer energy and resources be applied to what we personally like and desire, and less will be available should we all have different tastes and objectives. Perhaps it is this strict enforcement that permits such times at all, let alone their longevity. In our modern state of extreme individualization, we will, should we truly emit ourselves, often be endlessly lonely and always on edge, knowing we only have ourselves and billions of potential threats surrounding us. We have nothing in common but the universalism we all pretend to, or are deluded to, believe. And these days, I hesitate to say anyone even bothers feigning universality, and simply enforces the closest thing to it, or the narrative surrounding them. The fetishized rhapsodies of love and romanticism we all, at least used to, long for, may be based in little more than knowing that we are only truly committed to what we genuinely feel connection to. Although we now have 2 centuries of mountainous evidence to the contrary, showcasing that genuine yearning, ultimately, means nothing in far too many instances, frequently lasting for short periods with lifetimes of horrors to follow. In my case, my adoration of desolate and lifeless landscapes seems to, among other things, protect me from these many dilemmas that warmer weather breeds and justifies. Winter is a merciless solitude, and only she was with me on the darkest and most bitter of silent moments she granted to me. While the closest to ever do so, I still feel a lack of wholeness in her understanding of me.